We all have one of those friends. Marches to the beat of their own drum, blazes their own trail, one of a kind, artsy, the nonconformist, the outlier. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know who I'm talking about. In fact, you're probably envisioning someone right now. At the beginning of the New Testament, there are 4 accounts of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. The first 3, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are called the Synoptic Gospels. They're telling roughly the same story from the same viewpoint. But then there's a 4th account of the life of Jesus, written by John, called John. He's the guy we were talking about a little bit earlier. Think about it like this. The Synoptic Gospels are like a band. They're a bunch of different instruments, all come together, singing the same song in harmony. But John, he's a little bit more like a solo artist, a free spirit, a rolling stone, if you will, blowing in the wind, doing his own thing, telling his own story. Or maybe think about it like this. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and this guy's John. You get the point. John sees the story through a different lens. John's a little out there. He's off the beaten path. He's a little bit different, but actually in a really beautiful and meaningful way. So before we dig into his unique perspective, let's talk about who John was as a unique person. He was one of Jesus' disciples. In fact, he refers to himself 4 times as the disciple whom Jesus loved, which, if you're asking me, seems a little too self-assured. Tradition holds that he might have been the youngest of the disciples, which maybe means that it was his youthful zeal or naivety that led to his unique retelling of the stories. Jesus referred to John and his brother James as the sons of thunder. Killer band name, by the way. So I guess we shouldn't be all that shocked by John striking a cow. See what I did there? Anyways, together with Peter, the sons of thunder made up Jesus' inner circle. He took him to Gethsemane to pray with them before he got arrested, where they straight up crashed out on him when they needed him most. And they got a backstage view of the Transfiguration, where they totally missed the point. Jesus may have been perfect, but his friends definitely weren't. Regardless of his failures, John is the last disciple standing at the cross. And despite Peter's best efforts, he beats him in a foot race to be the first one at the empty tomb. Who knows? Maybe John just had long strides, or Peter was just a little bit out of shape. They go on to launch the early church together, and it's clear that John's important, even though he's a little bit different. And so is his gospel account. Perhaps his proximity to Jesus gave him access to stories that others didn't experience or even know about. Or maybe he just saw the world a little bit differently. Whatever the case, we should be grateful, because John's gospel is full of rich symbolism and imagery, and it's home to some of the most famous stories in the Bible. Without John, we'd have no resurrection of Lazarus, no woman at the well, or even water into wine. And most importantly, without John and his unique storytelling, what Bible verse would fans hold up at sporting events? That's right. John penned the most famous line in the best-selling book of all time. That's like the ultimate mic drop. So cut the guy some slack and lean in, because if you don't listen to the storyteller closely, you might just miss something. And who knows, maybe if we look through John's lens, we might just learn something new.